Welcome to the latest Instant Reaction podcast. Then the Seahawks have moved to 4-0 with a win in Miami against the Dolphins. This one finishing 31-23. A very different game to the previous three that the Seahawks have played, but the end result was the same. And they continue their unbeaten start to the new season. Robbie, what's your instant reaction then? What do you think about this victory down in Miami today?
Yeah, I mean, it was a hard fought game. I was really excited that it seemed like the defense came out early and was holding them to 3. And I really liked the way, we were giving up, some chunk yards, but again, holding them to 3, not letting them get in the end zone. I was really excited about that. It seemed like one of those games where, we were trying to get the running game going in that second half and just to try to, kill the clock a little bit more. And, I would have liked to see them play a little bit more aggressive. I know they tried to go for it on that 4th down play, but I would have liked to see a little more aggressive, in the second half just to kind of, put the game away. I do like the fact that they're trying to get the running game going, but man, overall 4-0, I'm really excited about it.
I think we always start with positives and negatives, and the main positive for me today, Robbie, is the style of play that the defense used. Now, I said in the preview game, you were hoping for a blowout, which I was very happy to have. But I also said that I wouldn't have minded a closer game where the defense could hang a little bit, build some confidence, give them a chance to show something rather than necessarily the Seahawks being 30 points ahead and them just getting diced down the field. And I think this is exactly the type of game they needed. And I think they've established a new identity on defense. For the first 3 weeks, blitzing 36% of the time, but only getting home 3.1% of the time with the sack rate, which was abysmal. Playing your cornerbacks in man all the time. And if the blitz doesn't get home, there's a chance they're going to get beat deep. This was very different. This was much more conservative. They were sitting back. They were saying to the Dolphins, you can have 7 yards on that pass. You can have 8 yards on that pass. You can have a run, which may get you a few yards. But we're not going to break when you get into not even necessarily the red zone, but some of that mid-range, 30 yards out, 40 yards out. The Seahawks were tightening up. They were holding the Dolphins consistently to field goals. That is a defensive style that can complement an explosive offense. If your offense is scoring 30 to 40 points a game, if your defense just limits opponents, it's fine. There were no big explosive plays today like we've seen in the previous 3 weeks. They weren't just getting, there was no 75, 80, 90-yard drive that lasted 38 seconds. It was a much better scheme, fit for this personnel and for this team. And Robbie, they found something there. They still have, all of the issues still exist. They still don't have a pass rusher who can win 1v1. They only had 1 sack today. They still don't have that ability at the end to just sort of put when it gets to prevent defense, they still gave away the touchdown at the end. But do you know what? This can complement the offense that they have. And hopefully they're going to persevere with this, even if Jamal Adams comes back.
Yeah, and then they did it without, like you just said, Jamal Adams and Quentin Dunbar, and they're missing a lot of guys. And so for them to come out and play the style of defense they did, and were able to, limit it to 3 instead of 7, I think that shows a huge boost of confidence for them. And then, man, how good is Ryan Neal? Guy looks great. And this is kind of what I was talking about previously, like giving these young guys an opportunity to show that they can play the game, right? And, he's been sitting on our practice squad, and all of a sudden, 2 weeks in a row, he's made 2 huge plays, and he seems like he's I saw someone comment like he looks like the next Richard Sherman, and I wouldn't go that far, but he's definitely a good football player. He's coming in, he's making impact plays, and I wouldn't say he's got that, but you look at other guys like Freddie Swain, who he just, man, it just seems like the guy is making plays, and like giving these young guys an opportunity to go out there and continue to prove their value to this team is really going to be beneficial going forward. And plus, it gives some of our vets a chance to kind of relax, like not relax, but like rest on the sideline and then come back in and not have to play 90% of the snaps.
If I'm Jamal Adams, I can't wait. I'm saying to Pete Carroll, do not go back to what you were doing for the previous 3 weeks. Just a reminder, the only player who had blitzed more than Jamal Adams in the first 3 weeks was Shaquille Barrett, who plays for Todd Bowles, and they blitz pretty much on every down. It's like half their downs. I'm exaggerating, it's not. But they blitz a lot. Greg Williams and Todd Bowles and what's his name in Baltimore, they always blitz, and they blitz a lot, and Steelers do it as well. That's their type of defense. This isn't a blitzing defense. And yet Jamal Adams was blitzing as much as anybody else. And, Ryan Neal, is basically given the responsibility of playing safety, as opposed to, well, you're playing safety, Jamal, but you're also the number one pass rusher in the team. So you better get up at the line and get in the backfield and make some plays because, nobody else is going to. And if you were allowed to play that way as a safety, read and react, read the plays, help organize things, attack the football, attack the ball carrier, you can play a much better style. I'm not surprised that Ryan Neal's role was really reduced down compared to Jamal Adams. And I'd like to see Jamal Adams get a reduced role, not because you don't want to see him involved all the time, but because I think he'll probably play better than he has the last 2 weeks if he's playing in that way. So I think this is a defensive style that works. Compare last week when Shaquille Griffin and Trey Flowers were having to play a lot of man coverage because of the blitzing, and look how they were burnt and torched and everything downfield and giving up huge plays. And then today, Shaquille Griffin, fantastic game, gets an interception, looks very, very accomplished, very solid. You see Trey Flowers didn't give up any big plays. If you're going to give up 8 yards every now and again and they're going to move the ball a bit, that's fine for this scheme. This bend, don't break thing is not a new thing. It's followed this, style of defense around for decades. It is what it is. This is the way to play, Robbie. They've found it now. That's a good thing. They've found it in week 4. Take it forward. Kirk Cousins will be a different challenge next week. He'll have some answers to this. He may well score some of those in the red zone that maybe Miami wasn't. This will be a very different challenge. However, this is the way to play. Don't go back to the way they were in the first 3 weeks. This can be a complementary defense. And if they can just find somebody who can rush off the edge as well before the trade deadline, even better.
Yeah, that's coming. We know that's coming. They're going to make some sort of move to bring someone in closer to the trade deadline. But yeah, Kirk Cousins provides. He always seems to play well against the Seahawks whenever he plays us. But it doesn't matter if he's with Minnesota or Washington or whoever he's playing for. He always seems to play well. So it's definitely a different challenge for us going forward. But I do like what I saw out of the defense today. When the offense didn't seem like it was doing as well. A lot of frustrating drop passes and such, and just it seemed like a little bit of change there in the second half, like running the football, like I said. But going forward, yeah, I really like what the defense is doing, and I look forward to seeing it. Man, I was really happy with DK's 30-yard run there, and just the drop was frustrating, but man, he another 100-yard day for him too. And I really liked what I saw out of DJ Dallas. The limited opportunities he got, I'd like to see a little bit more of him than Travis Homer. I felt like Homer had a really rough game, but yeah, I'm really, really excited about it. 4-0. You look at the standings now, and you see that the Cardinals, I believe they lost, if I'm correct here, they lost to the Panthers today, so that's huge. And I didn't see that one coming. And just got to root for whoever the Niners are playing today, and hopefully we'll be sitting pretty good.
Yeah, that will be a great time for Carson Wentz to get his arse in gear. I'm looking at the Rams. The Rams are already ahead against the Giants. I think everybody's kind of assumed that it's basically a bye week for the Rams. I have to say, this will be a controversial comment. I like the Rams uniforms. I know that the logo is terrible, but I quite like these new uniforms for the Rams. That's just a little fashion input there into the blog. As for Kirk Cousins next week, we'll come on to him, later in the week in more detail. But if that bellend wants to ruin another one of my sons, I flew all the way over to see the Seahawks beat the Washington team a few years ago, and he ruined that. I was on the front row. It was raining. I remember going with my brother and my dad and my uncle to the game. Really looking forward to watching the Seahawks get what we thought was going to be a comfortable win. I think that was a game when everybody got injured and the Seahawks lost. It was 2017, I think. So no more of that. More of the last 2 times he's been with Minnesota, that'd be better. They were fairly good wins in the end for the Seahawks. But we'll talk more about that in the week. Final quick few positive. David Moore was fantastic today. The play to get, obviously it's a blown coverage. Great throw from Russell. Still had to make the catch. Still had to make the play. Still had to get out of bounds. Great play right at the end of the half. That was a decisive touchdown for the Seahawks right before half time. Should have built off that and won this game at a canter. They didn't. We'll come back onto that in a second. And then, great play at the end on the touchdown. Great catch. Got his feet down. Very consistent on a day when even Tyler Lockett wasn't as reliable as he has been. David Moore was very, very consistent, so that's great to see. And I want to give Chris Carson a shout out as a positive as well. 16 carries for 80 yards. I know that it's a different style this year, and maybe they're keeping him on a snap count. I don't know, because of the injury issues, throughout his career, and also already this season. He took some snaps off to go into concussion protocol earlier in this game, had the knee injury last. I totally understand if they're trying to preserve Chris Carson for the long game. That's completely understandable. Look what happened when he got injured last year. The offense practically collapsed. They had to get Marshawn Lynch out of retirement. That said, I would like to see him get a few more carries. And 16 carries, 80 yards. He was rolling today. And as much as I think, do you know what, DJ Dallas, well done. You had a good performance today. I think it's completely noticeable when Chris Carson's on the field and when the rest of the Seahawks running backs are on the field. There's just a marked difference there. For the people who say running backs don't matter, that generally might be the case. But if you have a really good running back, a really talented, skilled player at running back, you do notice the difference. And I think there's a noticeable difference when Big Chris is on the field compared to the other guys.
100%. Yeah, Carson was running great today. And I just wanted to step back real fast. I've been a big, negative guy on David Moore. I've been kind of a critic of David Moore, not really sure why he was on this football team, still taking up a roster spot. But, man, this season he's been proven to be, valuable. He's made a lot of solid catches, and today was just another one of those days. Right place, right time, that touchdown catch in the corner, getting both feet down. He's been playing really good football. And so, yeah, absolutely mad props to him for how well he's been playing. So it's good to see that. And Chris Carson, just, man, when he comes in, he runs harder. He's hitting the hole harder. He seems like he's getting the right reads on where he's going. He had 100 all-purpose yards today with the running and the receiving today. So, it's nice to see they use him out of the backfield, and he could add a couple more. I think Russ overthrew him a couple of times on a couple of those screen passes, but yeah, he played a really good football game today.
I've just seen the Rams have fumbled the ball. Giant. We're watching this as this is kind of going on. So people were watching this podcast going, the Rams won by 40 points. Stop talking about this. But today is the day of I don't know if anybody aware in the Premier League, there were two really weird scores today. Manchester United 1, Tottenham 6, and then Aston Villa 7, Liverpool 2. So this is like the day of the huge stonking upset. Maybe the Giants will make it a hat trick there as well. Well, let's quickly talk about the negatives. There weren't too many today. Obviously, the offense, it stalled and stuttered for a period. Instead of coming out after halftime, getting into the red zone, capping that off and winning the game from there. It kind of felt like after that interception, they didn't really have the ball again until it was, a 2-point game. They barely had any momentum, any tempo. The tempo was slower than it has been in the past. I would have liked to see him quicken it up a little bit. I don't know if they didn't do that because of the heat or the whatever. But it was just a bit slower today and a bit more pedestrian than it has been. Would have been nice to see that sped up a little bit. But, ultimately the defense bailed them out, kept it close, didn't give up that touchdown. And then when they got the mojo back at the end, they sealed the game with those 2 touchdowns and one coming off, of course, the Shaquille Griffin interception. So, that almost turns it around into a positive in the end that they finished strongly. A couple of other negatives for me, Robbie. First one, I don't want to single players out after a win in the 4-0, but I kind of feel like we know what Cody Barton is at this point. He was, what a chance for him to come in today with Jordan Brooks injured, and show, yes, do you know what, I was worth trading up for in the 2019 draft. And last year, when I was getting stiff-armed by Kyle Allen and run over by Aaron Rodgers, that was just me being a rookie. But then you see him out there today. He's getting duped out of his cleats. He's missing tackles. I didn't think, apart from the tip pass at the start, which, I think Benson Mayowa also gets half an assist there for the rush off the edge. Apart from that tipped pass, which led to the Ryan Neal interception, I can't think of another contribution he made in the whole game. And that was on Miami's first drive. He looks like a liability, Robbie. And part of me just thinks, how bad is Ben Burke-Irvin have to be to get a shot on the field in that role, because he never plays other than special teams. I kind of feel like, sadly for Cody Barton, he just doesn't look good enough.
I 100% agree. He was not good today at all. Missed tackles, out of position, assignment misses. It just looked like he was playing lost. And I don't know if it's just the fact that he's just not getting enough reps in practice or what the case might be, but he just doesn't look like he's ready for this stage. And he's a guy that probably should be on the practice squad at this point, and, it's frustrating because you want to see a guy like that succeed. We traded up for him, and, I was hoping for more out of him, but, he just didn't seem like it. And yeah, you're right. I'd give Benson Mayo, credit on both those interceptions. He seemed to get pressure on the edge on both those times that Fitzpatrick made those throws, and the one he didn't get a tip, didn't get a reflection on it, but he definitely got his hand in there and forced Fitzpatrick to make a poor throw, and we got another pick out of that right to Shaq. So I think, shout out to Benson Mayo for making that, and he, I'd like to hopefully see that guy start putting up some more actual sacks, but I feel like today he played pretty good as well. I mean, he had 3 solo tackles today, and seemed like to be multiple pressures off the D in the side. So when we need that, if we're going to go out and get somebody else, we need somebody who can at least complement that. So looking forward to that.
I think it says it all about Cody Barton that, a year after trading up for him in the 3rd round, having to have him ahead of Bobby Okereke, who went to Indianapolis, you then a year later spend a 1st round pick on a linebacker. I mean, I think they knew what they had a year ago, and they kind of just sort of stuck with him now because of the injury situation with Bruce Irvin being out and Jordan Brooks being out. He's kind of 3rd on the depth chart now in that role. I mean, he's not 3rd at linebacker. He's 6th at linebacker or something like that. But it's just, for me, and I know people were saying Shaquem. I don't think Shaquem. We saw Shaquem Griffin playing at linebacker in that role against Denver a couple of years ago, and he was like a fish out of water. I don't think that's his role. I think they judged very early that he cannot play in that position. It's not his position. But, Ben Burke-Irvin's played a lot of snaps at linebacker for Washington. I just wonder whether or not he'll be less of a liability than Cody Barton. Isn't it time that he just got a few snaps there? I don't know. We'll see. The other negative, and again, I don't like mentioning names too much, but I kind of feel like if I've seen enough of Cody Barton at linebacker, I kind of feel like I've seen enough Travis Homer carries early in drives. Chris Carson, there was one drive where Chris Carson ran for a 1st down. First play of the drive, gets all the momentum going. Next play, Travis Homer's all tentative and indecisive, and he gets caught in the backfield, and it's like a loss of 3. Then Wilson gets sacked, and then they're doing a draw play to punt the ball away. Might as well just punt it on 3rd down. I mean, that happens a lot, and if it wasn't for that throw the white flag up run on 3rd and forever, Robbie, I think he would have been negative yardage today. DJ Dallas just looks like a better runner. Travis Homer's got tremendous special teams value. We all know that. And decent depth on the chart. If you had a couple of injuries, he's not going to let anybody down. He knows the scheme. But ultimately, it's either time to give Carson a bigger workload or give DJ Dallas a chance on some of those early runs, because I just don't see the benefit of Travis Homer as a running back right now. As a runner, not as a running back, as a runner.
Yeah, I agree. I was going to say, as a runner, I wouldn't say a liability, but he just doesn't seem like he's hitting the hole as hard. But I did see Travis Homer make a few, good pickup blitz blocks today that it might have gone unnoticed. But generally speaking, yeah, I mean, you bring him in maybe on passing down to help block or out of the backfield maybe. But I don't like seeing him running 1st, 2nd down. If you want to give him a 3rd and whatever it was, screen run, fine. But again, like you said, he gained 5 yards there, and he ended up having 5 total yards today on 4 carries. And if it wasn't for that run, yeah, he would have had negative yards today. I just give some of these other younger guys a chance. DJ Dallas, I mean, like, he's looked good, but he's been on the practice squad or inactive. So let's see these guys play and get an opportunity to shine, because you're not going to know what we have unless you're letting them play.
Let's have a look at some of the stats then from today. Seahawks 98 rushing yards. They took a couple off at the end for the Neal downs, but they were at 100 before that happened. Seahawks gave up a couple of sacks for 17 yards. Dolphins just giving up the 1 sack. Miami ended up with 312 passing yards in the end. Seattle 343. 3rd down defense continues to be a bit of an issue there. Dolphins 7 for 13, just over 50%. Seahawks 4 of 10, but also didn't get the 4th down conversion as well. I mean, just very quickly on that, because I think it's a minor point. I've got no issue with the Seahawks being aggressive there. I think this is perhaps the final negative. It's the wasted points today, Robbie. It was DK Metcalf dropping a pass. He should have good defensive play, but he should. If you want to be Julio Jones, you make that catch. Tyler Lockett, I think that someone read somewhere it's his 4th drop since 2017. That's 3 and a bit seasons now. So very rare collector's item that he dropped one to end a drive. Got a field goal from that. You've got the interception right after halftime in the red zone. but you've also got going for it on 4th and 3. And, it's aggressive. You're on Twitter, you see everybody going, go for it, go for it. This is the big thing. Seahawks, you've got to go for it all the time. You've got to try and get touch. Forget the field. I've got to go for the touchdown. Let Russ cut. In that situation, it was a close game. There's nothing wrong with taking a 3 when it's 4th and 3. And at that stage in the game, when you are the team with the 3-0 record and the high-powered offense, Robbie, you just keep going. I don't have an issue with them being aggressive, but I think in future I'd probably rather prefer they kick it there.
Yeah, I wanted the 3. Absolutely, I didn't want them to go for it at that point, but I do like the fact that I feel like there's a lot of times we've been in the where go for it, go for that, 4th and 3 instead and try to get that first down, and I like that they're being a little more aggressive. I think Pete, back in the day was probably like, no, just take the 3, take the points when you get it and call it good, So, yeah, I mean, if it would have worked, we would have been like, sweet, it worked, but you just call it what it is. And, would have liked to see the 3 points there, but, if that play would have worked and we got a first down and, we end up scoring a touchdown, we would have been like, that was a brilliant play. So you just take it for what it is.
Panic. Let's talk about something. I want to do this every week now because I think we should have done it at the start. The panicometer. So, in the last couple of weeks, the panicometer for me was right up at a 10. It was kind of, the other team has the ball, driving to try and win, or Dallas trying to tie or go for 2 to win. You're thinking you can't trust the defense. The panicometer is probably a 10. Atlanta, I think one point Atlanta was driving in the 4th quarter to make it a 1-score game, but then they didn't convert on 4th down. That panicometer probably a 5 there. You couldn't rule it out completely because Atlanta. Where were you on the panicometer today, Robbie? Because I must admit, when it got to 17-15, I was thinking, not again. Another unnecessarily close game here that everybody but Pete Carroll is absolutely hating. We just take a quiet, safe, solid, comfortable win from a 17-9 position with the ball in the red zone. Where were you on that? At a 10, where were you on that panicometer today?
I was probably a 6. I wasn't really that panicked. I mean, if I'm being honest, I was frustrated when it was 17-5 or 17-15. And when we got the ball and we were driving, I was thinking, okay, this is where we need to prove it. Like when you go down and score, if we wouldn't have scored there and they got the ball back, I think I would have been a little more nervous. That probably wouldn't have went up to like an 8 or 9 for sure. But there was still a lot of time left, so I don't really panic unless I think I was probably at like a 7 or an 8 when they got when they scored that touchdown and they got the 2-point conversion and within a touchdown and a 2-point conversion away, and we're going for the onside. I think my my panic meter went up a little bit more there, but during that time I was probably like a 6.
Yeah, I think when they were driving to get it to, they got the field goal to get it to within 2. They'd taken a lot of time. It felt like they'd been on the field for the whole of the second half. Their drives were taking up a lot of time. The Seahawks defense was starting to look gassed. There was that play where they had a 2-man rush and Ryan Fitzpatrick ran for a first down on 3rd and 10. And I was starting to think, oh God, they haven't got enough guys and bodies up front to rotate in. They're all going to be tired. It's hot. It's Miami. They probably had a cocktail last night as well. So it's, it's weighing on them a little bit. But then, at that point, it's raising a bit because I'm thinking if Miami scored a touchdown here, the Seahawks offense has been so stuttering that I'm not convinced they can immediately come back and score. But then when they held them to a 3, I think it really took it was starting to go back to a 6 or a 5 then. And then when they got that bit of momentum into that drive and you could see that they were back on it, and they scored very quickly, didn't they? And, to answer that and make it a 2-score game, it probably went down to a 4 or 3 at that point because, and then the turnover and finished it off. So much more relaxing than the last 2 weeks. So we should be grateful for that. But if they could, I think the hope is to have a game where it never gets more than a 3 or a 4 at any point in the 4th quarter where you can sit back. You remember that game when they beat the Cardinals in 2013? It was like 50-0 at half time. One of those would be great. I could write the instant reaction blog post at half time with a cup of tea. We could start the podcast a bit earlier. That's the life goal for the 2020 Seahawks. Right, let's finish with a quick thought moving forward. So 4-0, Robbie. As you mentioned, the Cardinals have dropped a couple of games that I don't think anybody expected, given the way they started. The 2 wins, this very impressive. They've now lost to the Panthers and the Lions, who got hammered by the Saints today. How do you feel about Seattle's position in the NFC? I have to say, I feel pretty good about it. It's the Rams more than anything. I know the Rams have lost a game to Buffalo, but I still think the Rams are the team to be wary of if you are Green Bay or Seattle. You know, Green Bay, we know what happens with Green Bay when they get to the postseason. Unfortunately, we kind of know what happens with the Seahawks when they get to the postseason in recent years when they're not the number one seed. I just look at the Rams and I think that they have righted the ship after last season and look to be a real force. Sean McVay's offense is really humming again. They're the team that I would look at the rest of the NFC and think I'm a bit wary of them. With it, maybe a little bit to Tampa Bay as well with all the firepower they've got, but their defense is giving up a load of points as well.
Yeah, the Rams are definitely the team you're going to look at. I think you can't sleep on the Niners either. I mean, honestly, I think they're, they've had a brash of injuries, but their guys are coming back. And if they start coming back and if they keep winning and without their guys, and then their guys start coming back, you look at them as like, they're right up there at the top of the NFC West. And it's crazy that honestly, all 4 NFC West teams could make the playoffs this year. I mean, if things played out that way, like with them adding the other seeds. So, I mean, it's honest. It's one of those things, man. You look at the NFC West and it's just tough. And it's going to be interesting when we start playing each other, that's when you'll get a good feel for how they're playing. I mean, right now, they're playing the Giants, who are 0-3 and they just don't look like a very good football team. They lost their star player and they had to, go out and sign Devontae Freeman and they're trying to makeshift on the fly right now. It's not really going very well for them. So, you think this is probably going to be a win for them, but I mean, it looks like that, the Giants just put up 3 and they got the ball back. So you never know, anything's possible any given Sunday. Right. But, just the trend of the NFL this year. I mean, I feel like there's just points being scored like crazy. I mean, just offenses are going crazy right now. And, I think Brady Quinn was like it's just like, where's the defense this year? Like, there's no defense in the NFL this year. They used to be 17-3, and that was it, ball game. You couldn't really come back from that. So yeah, where are the defenses this year? So, and we're right up there. Where's our defense? So we're just it's going to be interesting to see how the Niners and the Rams play. And I think this is where the Cardinals, like at the beginning of the year, we talked about them being a young football team, and I think this is where some of that youngness is coming into play, and how they're how they're effectively playing the game and losing probably some games that they should win. And they're good. They're going to grow from that as well.
How many wins the NFC least this year, do you think?
7.
That's a very ambitious total at the minute. I mean, Dallas have just been destroyed. Dallas should be 0-4. If it wasn't for that Atlanta absolute cock-up with the onside kick, they should be 0-4. This is the Dallas Cowboys playing in the worst division in football, should be 0-4 and in a huge hole. You've got the Giants, who are awful and going absolutely nowhere with no hope for their fans whatsoever. You've got the Eagles, who, are just floundering completely. I mean, this is a huge game for them now against the Niners this weekend. And they actually, hopefully, this elevates their performance a bit, given the way that the Cowboys are playing. And then you've got Washington, who, for me, I would say to Dwayne Haskins, thanks, but no thanks. Alex Smith, get yourself in there and win a division, because 6 wins might do it this year.
That's definitely possible. 6 could do it, but I see, like, they have to play each other, right? And if you're thinking about, Washington versus Dallas, or whatever the case might be, there should be, or the Eagles playing, like, those are going to be some games that should, like, the Eagles should typically win those kind of games. And yeah, I mean, what a terrible division, though. I mean, and yeah, the I don't know what the Cowboys issue is, but they just like go down early and then they have to claw their way back. I mean, they can put up points quickly and they've got a good offense, but I just don't understand what's going on there. You're right; they should be 0-4, and the Giants are not a very good football team.
It's quite funny though, isn't it, about the Cowboys?
Yeah, it is. I mean, I dislike the Cowboys very much, so I'm not super upset by it.
I wonder what Jerry Jones is doing right now. Probably sending a text to Jason Garrett saying, "Come back, 8. We'll take 8 and 8. It'll get us in the playoffs." Right, okay. So the Seahawks into 4-0 in strong position in the NFC West. Big game next weekend against the Minnesota Vikings, which is still on prime time, which means that I get to stay up again till 5 o'clock in the morning. But I've got the day off work the next day, so it's all good. I can stay in bed and wake up at lunchtime.
Perfect.
Hopefully off the back of a of a Seahawks victory against the Vikings. They don't seem to have much fun. They don't have much fun coming to Seattle for primetime games. Let's hope that run continues there as well. And you know what? Of all the legitimate complaints about the defense and the offseason about the Seahawks, this franchise deserves credit for starting 4-0. The first quarter of the season is over now. 4-0, no positive COVID tests. Russell Wilson in a strong position for the MVP. Just keep it going. Get into the bye at 5-0, and then you hit the real. I was actually, and we'll talk a bit about this in the week. But if you get a 5-0 at the bye, and no one should assume that Minnesota game will be a win. But if you do win that game, then when you face the tougher teams, you could afford in the following 5, which is your NFC West games, your big game. I think you play Buffalo away in that run. If you go 3-2 in that stretch, it doesn't really matter because you've already started with 5 wins. So if you end up at 8-2 off the back of your hardest stretch, and then you get things like the Giants and the Jets at home in back-to-back weeks, and you finish, I think, with the Cardinals and the Niners at home, it gives you a real chance to go and finish 13-3 or better. So get to 5-0 and a real chance there, Robbie. And they've given themselves the platform to do that, and they've just got to keep finding a way to win. They're not a flawless team by any stretch, but they are a winning team.
Yeah, absolutely. And if the trend holds true for how the Seahawks typically play, we play better in the second half of the season anyway. So hopefully that trend continues, and hopefully we'll see ourselves improving even more and winning some of those tougher games on the road or even at home.
Well, that's it for the Instant Reaction podcast. We'll be back in the week to look ahead to that Minnesota game a little bit more and get into that. Head over to SeahawksDraftBlog.com. There's an Instant Reaction blog post up already. We will add to the podcast to that as well at the top of the page, either in the comment section on YouTube or on the blog. Let us know what you think about the podcast, about the victory. What were your positives? What were your negatives? How are you feeling about the Seahawks now? Let us know what you think. www.SeahawksDraftBlog.com for more of that. Like and share the video. Let your friends know that the podcast is out there. And we'll see you in the week.